encouraged to work and not encouraged to have responsibility and to suffer and to pay a price and be responsible, then that society will vote according to this weaker frame, and then we're on a downhill slide. I think we're already there. Yeah. And then those kind of people will be elected, and then it can ruin our economy and our way of life. And who did it? The people did it.
Yeah.
So the church is really the salt of the earth and the light of the world, and has the message to control our appetite and have wisdom and look deeper at issues, not just what, like a woman could say, it's my body, okay? I'm pregnant. Yeah, but how did you get pregnant? You were immoral. You say it's love, but were you just sleeping around? Okay, how many abortions have you had? 7. Okay, well, why 7? Why is it? Are you sleeping around? Yes, but it's my body. Yeah, but you're not being responsible with what is happening in your body, because there's another person in your body. And that other person has a right to go to school, has a right to play baseball, or have dolls, or put on mascara. That human being has a right to life.
Right.
But you're taking that life away because of you and what you want, and the guy that's behind it, if he's anywhere around, who's also encouraging you to do it. That guy's responsible. And so that's the way we see life, and people there'll be an uproar about that in our public platform, like, oh, you are, what did they always use the word phobic?
Yes,
I don't know what they you are, and we say we're not afraid, and we're not lacking love. We're just talking about the natural order of things and saying that responsibility is a big part of life. And when we lose that, we're losing a fabric, a woven fabric in our society that actually holds it together.
Yeah.
Let's be responsible.
Yeah.
And let's hold each other accountable.
Yeah. The proverb, righteousness exalts a nation. Sin is a reproach to any people. And I mean, isn't that what we're talking about? We want to see righteousness uphold us as a people, as a nation. And it's interesting because sometimes, in the realm of politics, you won't even hear what you just described, abortion, taking a life, and not giving that child an opportunity. You'll hear women's rights.
Right.
That's what you'll hear. Right. You'll never hear abortion and really what's behind it and what's actually going on. You won't get that description. You'll just get, hey, this is about our rights. Now, the average uninformed person would say, oh, if it's about rights, everybody should have rights.
Yeah, right.
How could you dare think about robbing someone or taking away someone's rights? But that's not what we're talking about here.
Yeah. Well, there's a syllogism, and I think C.S. Lewis is the one that brought it up, and it goes like this, that milk is a bodily fluid. Milk is nutritious. All bodily fluids are nutritious. Okay? Milk is a bodily fluid. Mm-hmm. Milk is nutritious. All bodily fluids are nutritious. It's an inaccurate syllogism, okay? Mm-hmm. So the dumbing down of America and the Western world is that when our reasoning follows those lines and we can't think more directly and personally about, oh, wait a minute, that's not correct. There are bodily fluids that are not nutritious. But you just tricked me. You told me a story about women's rights without telling me about the baby in her womb.
That's right.
And telling me that baby has rights too. Like, we got 2 people and they both have rights. And you take away the rights of the one because of the other.
Yes.
And like, that's murder. And we don't, that's serious. And we can't just roll over and just say, oh, yeah, woman has the rights. Well, wait a minute. Let's follow the thing more specifically and see where it leads us. It leads us to a grave.
Yes.
There's a baby that's you're going to be aborted and have a grave, and that baby had a right to life.
And that information is so critical because you must have it. In other words, if you listen to the news today, depending upon which news outlet you listen to, you might think that what's happening, for instance, in Israel right now is just, it's horrible what Israel is doing to the Palestinians. And of course, there's the death toll has exceeded supposedly over 25,000, civilians. And that's tragic. There's no question about that. Everybody would agree to that. But at the other hand, you might not hear on that news outlet that this is all the result of Hamas invading Israel and killing, murdering, butchering up to 1,300 lives, innocent lives.
Yeah.
But you won't hear that.
Even the number 1,300 isn't really because they have for years been empowered killing people. It's a terrorist organization. Everyone knows that. But there again, the dumbing down of the mind and the heart without seeking out and finding and thinking through and understanding that evil is evil, murder is murder. And this it's mingled with Palestinian rights, which we all acknowledge, Israel acknowledges as well, that Palestine has a right. So they gave them the Gaza Strip. But do they have a right to take that right and use it as a military base to fight against Israel? I mean, that's the line of thinking. And I'm just saying that let's be careful with our thinking.
Yes.
And then let's say an educated population that is able to find our way through with the information. And I'm very happy for the internet because the social media platforms, the different ways of getting information is like much broader and wiser. I mean, not wiser in there's a lot of bad stuff. It's wise. It's better for people to get a lot of information and filter through it with prayerful wisdom and find out and be informed and then be active in the civic responsibility, the civic right of voting.
Yeah. Amen.
And being outspoken as you want.
Yeah.
But we can't lose the gospel.
No.
We've got the gospel. We have a primary thing. So I'll read one verse here. 1 Peter 2, it says, therefore submit yourselves to every ordinance of man for the Lord's sake, whether to be the king as supreme or to governors as to those who are sent by him for the punishment of evildoers and for the praise of those who do good. This is 1 Peter 2, 13 and 14. For this is the will of God, that by doing good you may put to silence the ignorance of foolish men. Now, we're going to do good, and there will be also, there will be kickback against us because they don't like our voice. But we are using our liberty as a cloak we're not using it as a cloak for vice, but as servants of God. Verse 17, honor all people, love the brotherhood, fear God, honor the king. So that's a good little list. I like it.
Amen. Our ministry here in Baltimore has always adopted this position of informing people, many of which in the church are voters, but not necessarily coming out and endorsing a particular candidate, but encouraging them to be informed, to do their homework, and to research those in different political parties. But at the same time, within the context of what we've been talking about today, within the context of righteousness, you do not want to cast your vote for someone that's going to promote unrighteousness in our culture and in our country.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. As a platform. And again, we're not comparing oranges with pears. We're not confusing. We're not putting everything all together in one basket, but we're sorting through, and we should understand that we follow after righteousness. And personally, I think God holds us responsible for who we vote for, and what we are supporting, and what platform are we supporting, and where is it going. I think so. That doesn't say that politics is the answer for my life, but it is part of my life. It doesn't mean that my political opinion and my activism or my voting and my activity in it isn't the ultimate answer but it is a civic duty. It is a part of my responsibility as a citizen of this country. Now, we have two citizenships. We have the citizenship in heaven, and we have the one here on the earth. We have both of them. And the one in heaven is very important to us and really drives our life, our citizenship in heaven, because we're accountable to God. And if he gives us the right to a vote, and he gives us a right to an opinion, and he gives us conviction in our heart and a conscience. Now, why wouldn't I have a personal conscience regarding my personal life? And why wouldn't I have a community conscience where together we are in agreement on some issues? And then why wouldn't I express to the larger body, the state, what our view is? Do parents, here's a sensitive one, do parents have the primary responsibility for their children, or does the state have?
Parents.
Okay, why do you say that?
Because they are their children. They're not the children of the state.
Well, what if the state says, no, we are?
That's when you have to draw a line in the sand.
And what are you going to do about it?
You're going to actually, it might result in whether it's better to obey God, who gave you your family, who ordained the family,
okay,
or to obey men. I think that's where you're going to have to make that choice, and you're going to honor God.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So this is what I want to know the issue. Does the state actually say? I want to know who's saying that. I want to know, are they running for office? I want to disagree with them. I have a right to. I have a right to freedom of speech. I have a right to assemble. We have a right to communicate our information. And if we disagree, we have a right to have that in our hearts and say, no, I disagree with that. And I have a right to support a candidate who has my opinion on it.
That's right.
And then I can be involved with that process of their election into power or to office. And if they lose, then I accept what has been given to me, and I go on as a spirit-filled Christian.
Yeah.
But I am in the process. I have to get I want to be involved in it.
Yeah.
Now, can you give an example, Pastor Love, from your own life about your dad?
Yeah.
And explain the story.
Yeah, just the context. It's based upon the story of where we grew up outside of Boston. And a major corporation spent years at a particular plant and buried chemicals in the ground because at that time they didn't know what to do with these chemicals. There was no EPA, no Environmental Protection Agency that the government had established, so they didn't know what to do with them, so they buried them in the plant. Those 55-barrel drums of chemicals broke open, and the chemicals found their way into the drinking wells of the city. And then 8 children in our neighborhood that we grew up in died of a rare form of leukemia that was linked to the chemicals. And then when the company was asked about it, and someone was trying to find out who was responsible for this, they just simply denied it. They lied and said, no, it never happened. My father, who worked for the company, said that's not the case. And, he was very concerned about it because he had 8 children of his own that were drinking from those wells, and then children in the neighborhood, families that we knew. So he spoke up, and he did it because it was the right thing to do. It was the right thing to do, and he didn't have any other motive in doing it. In fact, it cost him dearly. He lost a lot of friends. The company turned his back on him. People in the company that he had known and were friends for years, they stopped talking to him because of their own jobs that they felt like were at stake. But he did what he did because it was the right thing to do. He said he couldn't live with himself knowing that these children had died because of these chemicals, and the company wasn't taking any responsibility for it.
And is there a book written on that?
Yeah, the book was entitled A Civil Action. It chronicled the whole story, and then it was made into a major motion picture as well. Yeah, and it's interesting that you brought that up because my daughter, who lives on Nantucket Island, they're going to be showing that film next week.
Oh.
And my father has agreed to do a live interview
You're kidding.
before the showing of the film so that they can ask him firsthand about what his involvement was and how the whole thing happened.
Really?
Yeah.
Are we going to all go up there on a bus?
I don't know that I'm going to.
Are you going?
I'm not going to be able to be there, but
they can film it.
I think I can watch it
video.
online.
Yeah, watch it online. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's fascinating.
Well, what do we get out of the story? What do we get out of that story? How does it relate to our subject today?
Well, morally, he had to make a choice. He could keep quiet. He could agree with what the company said. He could join what was essentially the lies, or he could stand up for what was right. He could stand up for the truth. And that's what he chose to do, at great cost, too.
Yeah.
But we do the same thing when we stand up for righteousness.
Yeah. Like, do you think that in this coming election, if we are doing the right thing and standing up for it, that we're going to get a backlash?
Probably, yes. Absolutely.
I think evangelicals, the church, we're going to get in the crosshairs
yes.
of those that just do not like our views, and get ready for that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Come on, let's get ready for that. Do not back off.
That's right.
Do not be indifferent. Do not believe that that the Christians should just kind of be quiet and go in the corner and be invisible and not be involved. Come on. We're losing. There are issues that are really alerting our people today, like issues like that one about, who's responsible for your children?
Yeah.
Who's going to teach your children? And what are they going to teach them? If they teach this wokeism, which is like really horribly terrible, and they're going to teach that and push that down our throats, right?
Yep.
Then it's like, no way. So people send their kids to private schools. The state is failing to really give an objective education outside of their philosophical agenda or ideological agenda. So we are angry about it.
Yeah.
Abortion is another one.
Yes.
Immigration is another one. The economy is another one. It's like, Christians are not to be involved in the process? Of course not. They are the salt of the world. And your dad did a great thing.
Yeah.
And he did something that was right.
Yeah. And what's interesting is that when the results, let's say, of an election don't go the way we hope they would, we've been in this studio when those results have come.
Yes.
And we were not thrilled. We were not happy with the results. But as you said earlier, we just continue to live our spirit-filled lives. We honor God. We honor those in government. We believe that God has allowed them to be there, so we go on honoring them and living our lives the way God called us to.
Yeah, exactly. In love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then doing all that we can do to
And you know
share
what?
the
The
gospel.
very funny thing is, incredibly wonderful thing is that the devil hates the church.
Yes.
But the gates of hell cannot prevail against it.
Amen. Amen.
The political system can go communist or Nazi or some other atheistic or some other ideology, but it cannot destroy the church. The church will just go on and on and on and on through history. It will not be destroyed. It cannot be destroyed. It is what it is by God's grace, and it's been put in here. And if people would respect it and respond to Christ, and they would be involved and know Him in a personal way, they benefit greatly from it.
Amen. Now, before we wrap up today's broadcast, Pastor Schaller, people often say this, well, if Jesus were here today, what would his position be in terms of what he believed his purpose was here on the earth as opposed to the political climate that's happening?
I think the answer is simple, because that question was asked him regarding taxes. Does your master pay taxes? That was one of the one story. In one case, he told Peter, "Go." This was temple tax. There's two different: the Roman tax and temple tax. Temple tax. He told Peter to go catch a fish, and in the mouth of the fish is a coin, and then go pay the tax for you and for me. Okay. So that's so incredibly wonderful that, yes, we will pay our tax. Yes, we will. But it'll be easy for me. I am God, and you are with me, and we'll pay the tax just by catching a fish. Okay. The other one is, what do you think of Caesar's tax? Okay. What image is on the coin? Caesar. Then give unto Caesar what is Caesar's, but give unto God what is God's. So if Jesus was in this world right now, he would say to all of us, give unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Be a good citizen, respect the government, pay your tax, give unto Caesar what is Caesar's, do your duty, however that is, and then but give unto God what is God's, which is your heart and your mind and your soul. You will gain wisdom. You might end up being the king in Pharaoh's government in Egypt. You might be evangelizing in Caesar's palace. You might end up affecting the whole Roman Empire so that it becomes a Christian nation.
Wow.
Imagine.
Yeah.
God can do that.
He can. Amazing. And yeah, that's extraordinary when you think about it that way. Did Jesus ever say to any Roman soldiers, I want you to leave your post?
Yeah.
You're on the wrong side of the river here. You need to get right with it. He didn't do that, did he?
No. Actually, John the Baptist told the Roman soldiers to not abuse your power, be satisfied with your wages. I think there was one other thing. So they didn't say leave being a Roman soldier, but be a righteous man as a Roman soldier.
Wow.
Like you could be a doctor, but be a good one.
Yeah.
Be a teacher, but be a morally good one and a righteous one. Yeah, be a CEO of a company, but be a righteous one and a good one.
Yeah. And that's being the salt of the earth, the light of the world. That has to come through ultimately. Otherwise, we'll be reduced, as believers that have that dual citizenship, we'll be reduced to just one citizenship here on the earth.
Yeah.
But our designation is far greater than just being an earth dweller.
Yeah.
Right? We're pilgrims, we're strangers. We look for a city whose builder and maker is God. So that dual citizenship, and in particular being citizens of heaven, is the real driving force of our lives.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Before we close, one more challenging question. Sometimes you'll hear people say, well, I'm casting my vote for so-and-so. And some other believers would say, how can you call yourself a Christian and do such a thing? How would we address that today?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't say that. I would say sometimes you have only a choice between two evils, and choose the lesser evil. So there's not a perfect man on the earth. So I'm sure there's problems in everybody's life if you looked at them closely and you just saw. And of course, there are platforms. There are two parties in our government, and there are some elements of that platform work for me, and some elements of the other platform work for me. And I wish there was another party that would get it just right for me, but there isn't. So we have to work with what we have, pray about it, and then think seriously. But if a platform has a number of issues that are ungodly and they're promoting an ungodliness, then I would say that I have to take that before God.
Yeah. our responsibility as believers, and
And by the way, a lot of Americans are independent voters.
True.
Like we have heard that on the news, and I think that's another way of saying there isn't one party that's taking all of the things that I want. So it's a mix, and you have to weigh them and think about the candidacy.
Yeah, and we're hearing a lot today from people that are saying just that. I wish that there was another party
Yeah.
that was, more agreeable with what I believe
Right.
and what my convictions are all about. But just the bottom line for believers is we're called to preach Christ and Him crucified. Our priority is not government reform, is it?
No. Well, as a Christian, it could be. I mean, that could
We can be involved in it.
That could be. I mean, not in our country. I mean, government reform. I mean, I can imagine there are Christians in countries where they would love to have government reform, like maybe in, Okay, so, so your question is, what should we do about that?
Or what's our priority between those two?
Yeah.
Because sometimes we can get so wrapped up in the political side of things
Yes.
that we can actually miss out on what it is that God has called us to accomplish here.
By the way, I listen to news like a half an hour maybe every other day. I'm not a news addict. I don't recommend that for people. It can be a hobby kind of, but you be careful how it can affect you, how it can tear you down. I'm more into reading good stuff like his history, biographies. I read a Profile of Courage chapter from John Kennedy last night before I went to bed about a senator from Kansas who really refused to impeach Andrew Jackson. Great story, and a guy in a way a senator, unknown senator is kind of a hero. I like those kind of things. So I want to be. I want love. I want to be encouraged. I want faith. I want to do good things, and I want to be off the couch, active in society, contributing to the life of a teenager or a young person. Be involved in a school, be involved in my church life. I want to be involved with homeless people or shut-ins. I'm not saying me, but as a believer, I want to be somehow touching my community.
Amen. Yeah, great way to wrap up today's Grace Hour broadcast. And thanks so much for those thoughts. And friends, we want you to make sure that you subscribe to the show, The Grace Hour, on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and more. And thank you so much for tuning in today. We hope that today's broadcast has been helpful and shed a little bit more light on our responsibility as believers, especially as it comes to this whole idea of politics today, which we're going to hear a lot more of as the months progress. We're in a political year. A presidential election is before us. So stay informed, stay spirit-filled, and be reminded, we have a dual citizenship here on the earth, and most importantly, in heaven. Thanks again for joining us, friends. Until tomorrow at the same time, may God bless you.